everybody, welcome to the garage. I'm Jeremy Cordeaux and the Court of Public Opinion is in session. Peter Clayton's here. Gary walked in.
Good afternoon.
Glass of wine.
Thank you.
Now we're recording on Monday afternoon for posting on Tuesday morning at 9 o'clock. Gee, the world is moving so fast, it's hard to sit here and do a program with things happening as fast as they are. 17th of June. I hope you're well, I hope you're happy. Stay with us, enjoy the show. I see that the Lowy Institute, that's an outfit that I've got enormous respect for. They have an optimism report. Now, Frank Lowy put together this huge empire that he sold for, billions. But out of it, apart from making him a very wealthy man, but God, he worked very hard for it, he and his family. He set up this Lowy Institute, and one of the good things they do is to look at the level of optimism in society. And I'm sad to tell you here today that it is, at the moment, at its lowest in 20 years. Oh boy. Optimism is a really important thing to have. You know, if you think you can or you think you can't, you're absolutely right. Optimism makes things happen. And what many suspected, medical specialists are ripping us off. More on that later. Newsflash. Newsflash. In the last 24 hours, a leaked report reveals that Labor admits that Chris Bowen's net zero insanity will obliterate the economy. How embarrassing. But where is the reporting on this startling admission? For God's sake. Are they running interference or defence? The media, I mean? I don't know. Les Ellicus from our Friday show sent me this. It's from Donald J. Trump on X, on his upcoming meeting with Albo. From the President of the United States of America, I'll read this verbatim. There are more important global issues happening, but I will meet with Anthony Airbus Albanese, PM of Australia. Apparently he grew up poor and is running his country poorly. There will be no exemptions to the beautiful tariffs, making our country rich. Australia must have free speech and a respected leader to make Australia great again. And he puts M-A-C-A, MAGA, Australia. How embarrassing. Les, is that right? I mean, that's not a fake, is it? I wonder if Albo has seen this. I wonder if he's even seen it. How do you sit down with the man after that? I'm assuming it's genuine, Les, anyway. Ladies and gentlemen, we live in perilously difficult and dangerous times. One false move, one miscalculation, a misspoken word, all of this Middle East stuff could escalate out of control. The next few weeks will be crucial to world peace, maybe world survival. Should President Trump have had an enormous military birthday parade? Well, he didn't really, did he? No, it coincided with his birthday, but it was the birthday of the American Army. Now, I don't know. What do you think? Give me a call on Friday. Tell me what you think. 0491 65 68 60. That's our public opinion hotline, if you want to ring us. I don't know that I altogether believe in the American dream. But I do believe in Americans who dream. It's a subtle difference. The Middle East is erupting, as we've seen on our screens and as reported on our radios. People who hate each other and live next door to each other. It's an impossible situation. Iran is the repressive, dark, violent state, steeped in hatred of the West. Jews and Christians. The hierarchy are bad people. A brutal theocracy. Everyone agrees they must not be allowed to have a nuclear bomb. Israel is doing basically the only thing that it could. Smash the regime and free those wonderful people. You know, a woman's life in that country must be absolute hell. I mean, reading between the lines, from my understanding of the world, women are imprisoned if they don't wear the veil. If you were gay or bisexual or something, I mean, you'd be in jail or you'd have your throat cut. You'd be shot. Why doesn't Greta Thunberg go to Iran and campaign for women and human rights? Lady, you've got a big job there. Why don't you think about that? Otherwise, check out your credibility. Closer to home, wow. The state Liberals have a policy.
Just the one.
Wow. And I think it's a good policy. But, you know, you should have more than one. New home buyers will not pay any stamp duty on existing homes up to $1 million in value. Now, this will bring us in line with other states. And it'll make a big difference. Labor won't match it. They don't like the idea. It will benefit the seller. So what? It benefits the purchaser. The Premier's problem? It'll cost the government hundreds of millions of dollars. So bloody what? You have no right to rip off the people just so that you can collect money. You're not there to be a robber baron. Our money is not your money. Live within your means. Go away and leave us alone.
On $1 million house, the state tax in South Australia is $41,000.
Yeah, well, that is a big boost to somebody coming in and buying an existing home. Yeah. Go for it. The Liberals need to go with that and do it quickly.
Bearing in mind, most people are borrowing the money at compound interest, so in effect, they're paying that $41,000 for the rest of their life, compound interest.
Yeah.
It's tacked onto the loan.
But you'll never go back or backwards buying real estate.
No.
Albo's rebates on electricity are about to end in December. They won't remind you about that, of course. And electricity prices will be going up on the 1st of July. Electricity bills will be going up by somewhere between $103 and $150 a quarter. This was the announcement that was held over till after the election. Remember? AEMO, the regulator, has allowed increases of between 9 and 14%. Why? Money to the providers, not the generators. Has the cost of producing electricity gone up? If so, how? Don't just make the announcement, tell us. How? Why? Explain it. Now remember, ladies and gentlemen, renewables are cheaper. A lie. And you voted for these dimwits. I certainly didn't. The media is reluctant to ask the question, why the increase? Never heard one commentator ask, why the increase? Well, I did. The answer from AEMO? Well, a moment of embarrassment, and then it's the renewables. We're paying for two systems, the old and the new. That's no answer at all. Why? Why are we paying for the old and the new when there was nothing wrong with the old? I asked Professor Plimer on Friday, did he think there would be a eureka moment when we would all wake up from our torpor, our stupor, and see all this climate crap for what it is? And he said, no, it won't happen that way. It won't be until there is a serious crisis, a collapse of the economy, a depression, and great pain. Then we will see it for what it is. We'll get back to reality. And I think, sadly, the professor is absolutely right. Albo and Bowen and co will go off with their guaranteed indexed pensions. And let me repeat, Labor has now admitted that Chris Bowen's net zero insanity will obliterate the economy. But like the Voice, the Aboriginal voice to Parliament, they will stubbornly stick to their story. So we destroy the country. We're saving the world. God. Now that medical story, let's get to that. Peter Brandon of the Grattan Institute says 1 in 5 medical specialists is charging up to 3 or 4 times the scheduled fee. Are they ripping us off, or is it just the market? Supply and demand. But for a patient to pay $600 out of pocket is shocking. These doctors should be named and shamed. Now, there is a government published list which we can use to check which specialists are overcharging. But they don't make a lot of fuss about that. They don't do a lot of publicising of that, but it's there. They get the government rebate, then they hit the patient for up to $600 out of pocket. No wonder it's hard to get doctors to go into general practice when specialists are making that sort of money. More evidence that Labor lied again. Free medical care. That was the great promise. Free medical care through Medicare. Don't make me laugh. So-called free medical care and private health insurance are the main reasons for this situation. No one is paying. I'll charge what I like. Before Whitlam and Medibank in the 70s, we never had a problem. Or particularly this problem. Back then, your doctor probably drove a Morris Minor. Today, it's a Porsche. President Trump. This is a complicated but interesting story. The president needed to be sure that he would get the outcome he wanted. So he appointed Elbridge Colby, US Undersecretary for Defense, to run a ruler over the AUKUS agreement to make sure it complied with his America First policy, which I think is perfectly fair. The problem for us is that Elbridge Colby is not a fan of AUKUS. In fact, he is a critic. You want to have a bet on what this inquiry is going to find? Oh, God, I'm such a cynic. But the old rule is never have an inquiry unless you can be sure of the outcome. Let me be quite clear. There is nothing wrong with the President of the United States putting his country first. Exactly why the Prime Minister of Australia should be putting Australia first. But no, He's quite happy to send you and me and the country broke to save the world with his net zero nonsense. As I've said several times, his job is not to look after the world, it's to look after us. Anyway, let's talk about defence for a couple of moments. Trump wants other countries to carry their weight. Perfectly right, perfectly fair. Let's not worry about the others. Australia has, for far too long, farmed out, relied on others for its defence. There is no greater priority than defence. Forget about spending money on anything else. Ask an Aboriginal. If you can't control, defend your borders, you will lose your country. Albo can find money, prioritise. Lots of wacky ideas and projects. Think the NDIS, a crazy immigration policy, climate change, a bloated public sector, Aboriginal affairs, which doesn't help Aboriginals but costs more than the Defence Department. And remember, if you lose your country, nothing else matters. You know, at the height of World War II, specifically 1944, German shipyards produced 300, you can look this up, 387 U-boats. This represented the peak of our submarine construction effort during the war. 387 submarines. I know these boats were not as complicated, but America says that it can only produce one, well, in fairness, it's 1.2. What you do with 0.2 of a submarine, I don't know. 1.2 Virginia-class subs a year. I don't understand it. Mind you, America was smart enough to grab all the German rocket scientists, Werner von Braun and his friends, to run NASA and their space program after the war. German and Japanese engineering. Focus, determination, attention to detail, pursuit of excellence. And what are we up for? Compromise. The unions. Shortcuts. Quick profits. Offshoring. Privatization. What do they call those private companies? You know, where they sell things off and a whole group of people come in and strip the assets? Anyway, you get the picture. You get the picture. You couldn't find two systems more different than Great Britain and the United States. One, the US, was born out of the other. Conflict and struggle and determination, grit. On the weekend, we saw demonstrations and placards which read, "In the US, we do not have a king." Well, Trump will never be a king. But the Americans love the Brits, and the pomp, and the carry-on, and the ceremony. What's the problem? Since the Magna Carta and the separation of powers, separation of powers, Britain has gone along very, very well. The monarchy is the benign glue that keeps it all together. There's nothing wrong with a king. I think the average American is in awe of the Brits. You see, it works. No system is perfect. Democracy certainly isn't perfect. But what's the alternative? What's the alternative that you and I could live with? If you can think of one, call me on Friday. We're here with the best wishes of the Rising Sun Inn, ladies and gentlemen. 60 Bridge Street at Kensington. Their telephone number is 8333-0721. And we're recording on a Monday afternoon for posting on Tuesday and I was going to drop in tomorrow, but they're not open on Tuesdays for lunch, or the bar's not even open. So do ring and check if you're going in, but they are open 7 days a week, but not every lunch and every dinner. Grant and Jackie will take care of you. The Rising Sun Inn, regularly chosen as the best pub or inn in South Australia, built back in 1845, lots of atmosphere, big open fires, warm atmosphere, history, culture. And the really nice thing about it is the people. You know, you rub shoulders with some really nice people. I love it. And Jim Elder Fine Art Gallery in Melbourne Street, North Adelaide. They've had one big auction this year. They're getting ready for the next one. 106 to 110, Melbourne Street, North Adelaide. Beautiful old buildings. You can talk to Jim or Helen on 088-267 2869. I give you that number because if you've got a painting that you would like him to sell, well, first you've got to work out whether you want to sell it, have it appraised. He can do that, and he'll do that absolutely free of charge. And if you want to sell it, he will sell it to a global market, and he gets fantastic prices for his paintings. He's inviting people to submit notable paintings for the second of his 4 big auctions for this year. Jim Elder. A terrible airline crash. I don't do a lot of travelling. In fact, I really don't like travelling. I like staying at home. But that terrible airline disaster in India, a Boeing Dreamliner. I'm sure it's a beautiful aeroplane, but it's sadly misnamed in this context. A Dreamliner came down shortly after takeoff, killing all but one person on board. Scores of people on the ground. Death toll, I think, because it keeps moving. Last time I heard was 279. 279. Could you imagine being that one survivor? Thinking, why me? Why did I survive? What must I do now with my life? It will be a very interesting story to follow through. I never want to be in an aircraft crash. I never want to be in a car crash. But anyway, who knows what life is going to throw at us from day to day. Nick Mackenzie of The Age and Channel 9 has another front page story. Australia's largest wind farm being constructed by the workers with criminal connections at considerable increased cost to the developer, all thanks to the AWU, the Australian Workers' Union. Now you can check this out. I'm sure Channel 9 will be running with it, and I'm sure that you can go to The Age or Sydney Morning Herald and see the same story. Unlike the CFMEU, the AWU is considered to be one of the few reputable unions on the block. Well, great story, Nick. The question now, of course, is, will they get away with it? Will they? Will the entrepreneurs behind building that, in my opinion, silly, largest wind farm in Australia, what will they think of the added cost of building the damn thing? Great guests on last Friday's show, jeremycordeaux.com. I look forward to maybe your company on this coming Friday, live streaming 9 to 12. We had Dr. John Bruni there talking about AUKUS agreement and the impending Middle East war. Not impending so much as right there in your face. Professor Plimer. Stephen Pilaris, he was a fantastic guest. We've got to get him back. Former Director of Public Prosecutions in South Australia and soon to be a candidate running for the upper house. He has so many famous cases that he has fought on behalf of the public. I'm sure he could write a book But being a lawyer, he'd probably be a bit reluctant to... It would be a minefield, Stephen, wouldn't it? It certainly would. And John Overton dropped by. John dropped by. He had David Niven with him. Believe it or not. The great David Niven. Really. Tune in Friday at 9 o'clock, jeremycordeaux.com. Good fun. Australia will join with 90 other countries to finally do something about plastic. Wow. Plastic. Everywhere you look, it's plastic. Plastic, plastic, plastic. At long last. Why did climate change grab so much attention when plastic pollution is the major problem facing the planet? And it is something we can fix. It just takes a little bit of discipline and determination. We get lots of interesting comments from our Facebook posting. I try to answer all of them, but sometimes I'm sitting there on a Tuesday or Wednesday morning and I'm answering the comments, and there are so many of them, I get distracted, something else happens, and then I don't get back to it till Thursday. Anyway, we get lots of interesting comments on the Facebook posting and the podcast, which subsequently goes out thanks to Andy Martin. But this one I like particularly. I find it very interesting. If I could reach over here and get my phone, because it's on the phone. Well, it's as I say, interesting. The comment, I think, provoked by the story that we ran last week about the Aboriginal rock paintings placing the Woodside Northwest Shelf development in jeopardy, is from Charles. Charles says, it seems that Aboriginals are now sitting in judgment on every development and significant investment in Australia with the right of veto. These are people who are barely out of the Stone Age, hardly thought their way out of the Stone Age. Life which did not improve much until the colonialists arrived. Charles says, is it fair? Well, perhaps it is that they are now determining Australia's future and prosperity. It is bizarre, Charles. I wonder why Aboriginals don't embrace progress. Culture's important, but survival and all of the things that colonisation brought, not all good, but all somewhat more useful than that which was there. It's all in the eye of the beholder, I suppose. But Charles, you've got to be careful, because observations like that, you will be named a racist. In this country, with a woke government, you can't tell the truth, because they can't handle the truth. They don't tell the truth. But here in the court of public opinion, we sure can, and we do. Thank you, Charles. Provocative, thought-provoking. How much time have I got? Okay. Let me say to those brave people who freed the whale off the Queensland coast, caught up in a shark net, we still have another whale out there that they are looking for, still caught up. What else is there? A few grab bag things. South Australia has been named the best producer of Kitchener buns in the country. I like Kitchener buns. Absolutely. Yeah, and finger buns, and Chester cake, all those wonderful things. That's one thing. Jayco Caravans defending itself over allegations that its advertising is misleading. Look, I don't really know. I don't know what the advertising for that particular product was at that particular time, what the particular advertisement was. But most advertising hovers on the edge of misleading. look at it through a skeptical eye. You know, just understand that they're putting their best foot forward, and sometimes it's a bit too far forward. Treat it all with a little bit of cynicism. Sunscreens don't seem to give us too much protection, or not the protection they claim to be giving us. You know, a 50 plus sunscreen gives us something like 3 plus protection. Now, when I go out in the sun, if I go out in the sun, I'll get that, what's that coconut oil thing? Palm oil thing.
I don't know. You fry yourself.
Yeah, you fry yourself, yeah. What's the point of going out in the sun and saying, I don't want to be in the sun? I don't understand that. You know, and I've done that since I was a kid.
Banana boat, isn't it?
And so what's it called?
I think banana boat.
Banana boat? Oh, look, it could be. But zero sun protection. If I go out in the sun, I want to go out in the sun. Anyway, that's all according to Choice magazine.
You happen to look really good with a hat on.
And we've talked about the demise of the project, which was a package show on Channel 10. Roving Productions, Channel 10 didn't make it. Roving Productions, I think that's Rove McManus. Anyway, I always thought it was just left-wing nonsense. Was it news, current affairs, commentary, comedy, satire? I don't know what.
No loss.
No, sad for the 100 people who worked on the show. 100 people worked on that show? Good God. And we can add that to the demise of Q&A. God, perhaps there is hope when left-wing drivel doesn't even work on the ABC. Wow. 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 Let me give you some dates, ladies and gentlemen, and then I'll get out of your hair. Happy birthday if you're having a birthday. Happy wedding anniversary. June 17, Charles Goodyear obtains his first rubber patent. 1837. Gee, I wish I had $1 for every time I get a date or an anniversary of a tyre story. Barry Manilow, American pop singer, piano player, Mandy, Daybreak, I Write the Songs, Copacabana. I like Barry Manilow. People send him up and ridicule him, but I think he's a great talent. 1943, he was born on this day. Murder of interest. Oh, O.J. Simpson doesn't turn himself in on murder charges. LA police chase his Ford Bronco for 1.5 hours before he eventually gives up. Seen live on national television all over the world. We watched it in the 5DN newsroom all those years ago on this day in 1994. O.J. Simpson. S.W. Bell inaugurates mobile telephone commercial service in St. Louis, Missouri, on this day in 1946. Took a while to get to be popularized. Venus Williams, American tennis star, considered one of the all-time greats, born in California, 1980. God, she's young. Born in 1980. Wow. Running Up That Hill, 2022. Running Up That Hill, the single by Kate Bush, goes to #1 on the UK charts. Originally released in 1985, the song was featured in a sci-fi television show called Stranger Things. Its record, 44-year climb to the top. Took it 44 years to get there, but Kate Bush, 63, became the oldest female artist to score a '1 hit. And she's still going strong. This day in 2022. 1755, future explorer James Cook joins the Royal Navy as an able-bodied seaman at Wapping in East London on this day in 1755. Japan declares war on China in 1938. Pete's standing up, you're leaving. Was it something I said? No, we've got to wind it up. Okay. Mamsa Mahal dies during childbirth. Her husband, Emperor Shah, then spends 20 years building her tomb, the Taj Mahal. Golly, 1631. Diana Mitford, English biographer, famous beauty, wife of Oswald Mosley, and one of the Mitford sisters, born London, died 2003, born this day in 1910. Travellers Insurance Company of Hartford, the first accident insurer in the world, 1863. Dolly Parton records her song, I Will Always Love You. Later a huge hit for Whitney Houston, 1973. I love Whitney Houston, but then again I love Dolly Parton. Anyway, happy birthday, happy wedding anniversary. I hope it's been a great day and you're going to have a great week. I look forward to seeing you on Friday. We'll be back next Tuesday, 9 o'clock, in the Court of Public Opinion here in the garage, with our Facebook posting and our subsequent, what do you call them?
Facebook posts.
No, what do you call the other things that go out there? Podcasts. They're everywhere. Have a great week, ladies and gentlemen. I'm Jeremy Cordeaux. Thank you so much for being with us. Believe in yourself, and goodbye for now.